This is a controversial one. Surah 33, verse 40. Muhammad was not the father of any of your men, but Allah's messenger and the seal of the prophets, and Allah was of everything knowing. The people, of course, and the Islamic tradition relates this to Zayd ibn Thabit, Zayd ibn Haritha, I'm sorry. And they say that Muhammad was his father and he was his adopted son. Although the Quran just says Zayd. Zayd could mean something else in Arabic. But this is not what we are discussing here. We're just looking at this verse. It is important to see that Arabic, it says ما كان Muhammad, means was not is not, as all translations put it. Therefore, it is speaking about something in the past. This is crucial. This is a reference to Jesus, who really was not the father of any of the men. Maybe people back then claimed to be the descendant of the Messiah for some reason. And I was searching and I found traces of something like this. So Jesus really was not the father of any of the men. Jesus would be the seal of the prophets before the Arabian prophet arrives to the scene. These people, they were Christians, especially Muawiyah. And I forgot to say about the verse before, that blessed be, or the servant of Allah. This is a Christian name in Arabic. The word Abdullah is Christian in Arabic. So when we look at the Muawiyah inscription, it says Abdullah Muawiyah. It means the servant of the Lord Muawiyah. He was a Christian. But back to the point, Jesus was the seal of the prophets before Muhammad arrived to the scene. What do you think?
Well, I mean, just looking at the sequence and time sequence that you're putting out here, it would make sense, since if this was referring to Muhammad at the point of the fact that where Muhammad would be living at the time that this is revealed, this would make no sense. How could this even be a reference that Muhammad would be a father of any of those who are reading this? So this would have to refer to something that happened in the past. He has to have lived or died before this would make any sense. The only one who was living, who had lived or died, that this would make any sense for, and as being a seal of all prophets, would be Jesus Christ. So you would say the blessed one was not the father. Is that how you would then translate this?
Yes. But in the end of the presentation, I will also show you another surprise.
Okay.
But till now, it's better to think that's the blessed one.
So people are aware of what we're doing. So in every case, in chapter 47, verse 2, in chapter 48, verse 29, now in chapter 33, verse 40, you would say that we should introduce the blessed one in each one of these cases.
Yes, exactly.
Or blessed be in the case of 48:20.
Yes, the blessed one, but it's a reference to Jesus. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
I would say, it just to make one quick point, from the Christian context, Jesus is the seal of the prophets because all public revelation ends with him. So this would fit in nicely with what the text is saying.
Yes, because if we look at the idea that Islam maybe was an apocalyptic movement, then you will have Jesus as the final prophet. They wanted the Messiah to come back. They calculated it. They were waiting for him, but he never came back. So then they became angry. They say, well, he is one of the prophets and he's just a normal prophet. This might have been what happened.
All right.
The last verse that we have in the Quran, which mentions the word Muhammad, is in Surah 3, verse 114, which is on the left. Now let's read this. It says, Muhammad is not but a messenger. Others messengers have passed before him. The one on the right, which is in Surah 5, verse 75, says, the Messiah, son of Mary, is not but a messenger. Others messengers have passed on before him. Now, we do not need to be Arabic speakers. Just listen to this in the Arabic. ما المسيح ابن مريم إلا رسول قد خلت من قبله الرسل. The other one, ما محمد إلا رسول قد خلت من قبله الرسل. The exact same word. It seems that the Quran has this repetition always with different ways of naming people, and this is just one of them. What do you think?
Okay, well, I can see where you're going with this, Murad. So what you're saying in both of these cases, two different verses in two different parts of the Quran. One is in chapter 3, one is in chapter 5. When you look at them, they're saying exactly the same thing. The only thing that they're changing is who this is referring to. On the case of Surah 5 on the right in the yellow, it is the Messiah, son of Mary. In the case of the blue on the left, in chapter 3, verse 144, it is Muhammad. But as we have said in the previous three examples, if you take Muhammad as the blessed one, it would then become the blessed one is not but a messenger. Who is this blessed one? Well, just look on the right. This is the Messiah, son of Mary. And that would make sense then that this is a repetition of already what has gone on before. And it also then fits with chapter 47, verse 2, chapter 48, verse 29, chapter 33, verse 40.
Yes, this is the internal evidence. This qualifies as internal evidence. The Quran interprets itself just by looking at its different verses.
Okay. What do you think, Mel?
I would say if you were to get rid of the first couple of words, like took away Muhammad, took away the Messiah, just left it blank, and you ask yourself, is it referring to the same person? You would have to conclude it is talking about the same person, simply because what it says afterwards is exactly the same. So it makes more sense to say that whoever this person is that's been referred to as Muhammad must be the same person who's being referred to as Messiah, son of Mary. It makes logical sense.
I want to add just one layer to this, and this has to do with the Muslims trying to deceive the West. The Sahih International, it puts it as was not. So this verse about the Messiah, son of Mary, was not, but this is not. Why is that? It's very clear here in the Arabic that it's the exact same word, exact same tense.
So just to be clear, what you're saying is the Sahih International has Surah 575 in the past tense, whereas in the other one, it has it as present tense, but in the Arabic, it has it in the same tense. Have I understood you correctly?
Exactly, yes.
So why would they change the tense between the two? Knowing the answer, asking it, but...
This is something that they will have to answer, but this is a part of the deception. If you have dignity, you have to just literally translate every word. Now, there is further evidence for this theory. This is the word Yasua in Syriac. We know that the name of Jesus in Arabic is Yasua. It has never been Isa. And you can see here how it's drawn. Now, this is the word Muhammad in Arabic. You can see here how similar they are. The Arabic Muhammad is an Arabization of the Syriac Jesus. This is very clear when you look at it. What do you think?
Oh, I see. I see why you're putting this in as a surprise. Fascinating. So what you're claiming is all of the material that we have on Jesus, and just for backup for people who don't know where you're coming from, the material about Jesus in the Quran, all the references to him as a baby in chapter 3, verse 46, speaking from the cradle, in chapter 3, verse 49, making birds out of clay, in chapter 19, where he has the trees bend down to feed he and his mother. All these stories are not in our Bible. They are all from sectarian sources. They're all from Syriac sources. And the Syriac sources are what the writers of the Quran had to borrow from in order to find out about these stories of Jesus. And the name for Jesus, as you see written there, that's the first time I've seen the name for Jesus written. When you look at the Arabic name for Muhammad, it's almost identical. And when you look at it first glance, it looks very much the same. So you're making a claim here that possibly this is why they got the confusion. They got it mixed up.
Yes, and this is maybe why the name Isa pops up in the Quran. The Christians in Arabic, they never call him Isa. Isa is close to Isu, which was the bad son and then they changed it to rhyme with Musa. So Isu became Isa, so that the Quran is always focusing on the rhymes. So Musa and Isa. Why did the name Isa just come into existence? It has always been Yeshua. So it suggests that something went on here. I don't know much. It's just new, but something has to do with the name Muhammad and the name Yeshua in Syriac and the name Isa.
That's fascinating. Mel, I don't know if you want to say anything, because I'd like to say one more thing about this Yeshua.
I think this idea of Isa being used is because they're using it from different traditions which are non-Christian. And that's why there's a different word for Jesus in the Quran rather than, I don't think it is just a simple mistake, or I don't think it's simply for rhyming, but there are rock inscriptions in northern Arabia that precedes Islam, which would be evidence for it being the basis for why they picked Isa rather than Yeshua.
Just to back up what Murad is saying about the fact that they've got another name for Jesus than what we have in Arabic, the Christian Arabs always referred to Jesus as Yeshua. We know this from the Sinaiticus Codex 151, which is just in St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai Peninsula. And when you look at the date on that manuscript, it is dated to 868. That's the late 9th century. Yeah, that's just 2 years before the death of al-Bukhari. So the late 9th century, you have the earliest translation in Arabic of the New Testament. And in that Arabic translation, the name is always Yeshua. Late 9th century, we're long after the Quran has been written. We're long after Isa has been introduced in the Quran, suggesting that the Christians have always seen Jesus as Yeshua. And as to where the Muslims got the word Isa, I'm going to let Mel and Murad battle that out between them. I'm going to be agnostic at this point. We do know, however, that this could be one of the reasons why they've got the Ahmed or the Muhammad mixed up. If this is the first time I've seen this original Syriac for Jesus, the Syriac name for Jesus, I would surmise, and this is just a surmise on my part, that if you're going to borrow the story from the Syriac traditions, you take the name that goes with it. You bring the name in with you. You bring the story and the name with you, suggesting that that may be another reason why Isa is found in the Arabic Quran and not Yeshua.
Yeah, the other thing to bear in mind as well, in that area of Arabia, a lot of Arabs were at least bilingual, and some of them were trilingual. So they would have had Syriac, Arabic, and some of them would have had Greek as well. So they wouldn't have seen Syriac as a foreign language. It was just part of the collective language that people use. So I could easily see them writing this down as a Syriac word, pretty much as is, in the midst of an Arabic text, and then for it to be later corrected maybe by a later scribe, and then it becomes Arabized, as Murad has said.
But Murad, you are saying here that one of the confusions and one of the reasons why Muhammad or Muhammad is in these verses could be because they confused the Syriac rendering. When they saw the Syriac, they then thought in Arabic, this is Muhammad.
Yes, this is a possibility, but what I'm saying that in the large scheme of things, it is a mistake to ignore the word Yeshua in Syriac. This is very crucial. Now, did this get dependent on this? Muhammad, was it an Arabization of the Syriac Jesus or not? This is another question, but this is something which is highly crucial. It seems that the name Muhammad is just a different way of writing Yeshua in Syriac.
And also the fact that it still works in Arabic. Let's presume they made a mistake and it became Muhammad as we see written. The fact that it means something in Arabic, the blessed one, would allow for that mistake to still work and no one to pick up on it. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, exactly.
Murad, thank you so much. This has been really helpful. We've gone through chapter 47, verse 2. We've gone to chapter 48, verse 29, that it looks like it would be coming from the Diatessaron. Let's go ahead and have your conclusion.
Yes. The 4 Quranic references to the word Muhammad does not fit the Arabian prophet. This is clear from the Quranic internal evidence and from philological evidence if we compare the Syriac way of writing Jesus and the Arabized Muhammad. Calling Muhammad by name contradicts the notion that the Quran is always telling Muhammad, say. So say, say, say. Why will he be calling Muhammad and speaking about him as if he was part of history? This contradicts how the whole conversation was going. Saying that Ahmad is another name for Muhammad in the Quran is problematic and it has no historicity. And Ahmad actually is a figure that Ahmadiyya group, it's kind of messianic. The Ahmadiyya group, they think that this was the Ahmad. So they don't think that Muhammad was the Ahmad. This is crucial. The cumulative evidence seems to suggest that the Quran's authors refer to Jesus as Isa, Messiah, son of Mary, and as Muhammad. And when they refer to him, of course, as son of Mary, so that you don't say son of God. It's just a way to divert you from saying this. Therefore, the Quran is referencing to Jesus and using the Quran for establishing Muhammad's historicity is highly problematic. The Muslim sides, when they were against Robert Spencer and David Wood, they were just using the Quran. This is wrong. That's all I have to say on this.
Murad, this has been excellent. Thank you so much. This is, of course, you're putting this out there as like a white paper. We're going to get some responses. I want Muslims and those of you who have listened to this video, I want you to respond in the comment section below. If you have difficulty with what has been said, remember, we've gone now through the only 4 references for Muhammad's name in the Quran. Chapter 47, verse 2. The Blessed One is a way that you could put it that way. In chapter 48, verse 29. It looks like this one has been borrowed from the Diatessaron, the Blessed One again, which is referring to, in this case, Jesus. And also when you look at the context, the fact that he's taking on the sins, this could not be anybody else but Jesus, because Muhammad does not take on our sins. In chapter 33, verse 40, Makan, was not in the past tense. Therefore, if it's in the past tense, it cannot be Muhammad because he's there in the present tense. So it is obviously referring to someone that had already come. The only one that would fit that would be Jesus again. And then in chapter 3, verse 144, when comparing chapter 3, verse 144 with chapter 5, verse 75, I think it is, you can see clearly that you have the same reference for Jesus as you have in the other. If you put the Blessed One, as we've seen in the previous 3, then it makes sense that the Blessed One would be the one that this is referring to. In chapter 5, verse 75, then it is synonymous with chapter 3, verse 144. So you've done a very good job, Murad. You've made your case. Now it's for the Muslim side to make their case to see if this is incorrect. This is the beginning of the debate. We're not going to say that this is the ending of the debate. Let's go ahead and let's bring it back and forth. Let's see where we go from there. Let's see the other side. Let's see if people can convince us. I think you've done a very convincing job today, Murad. Thank you for your time. Mel, do you want to say anything before we end?
I think, the fact that Muhammad is mentioned so few times in the Quran is suggestive that the focus of the Quran isn't about a person called Muhammad. So this evidence, I think, supports that and leads us to doubt who it really refers to. So thank you, Murad.
Thank you very much for having me.
God bless you. This is Mel, Murad, and Jay, over and out.